Anko, we made it. Thank you so much. And thanks so much for coming on the Electric B2B show. This is our very young podcast, and I'm super excited to be talking to you.
Well,
So,
thank you for inviting me on. I love the name of this show
yeah,
too. So
Electric
exciting.
B2B. Yeah.
Yes.
I was going to use like a subheading for it, which would have been unorthodox B2B marketing and business development. But I'm going to leave that out for a while.
Okay.
So it's just electric. It's just electric. Yeah. So number one, you guys are doing some real awesome work at Propel. Could you just tell us a little bit about that? What do you do at Propel? Or what does Propel do? And then what do you do at Propel?
Yes, I can do it in that order. Sure thing. So what Propel does is we serve product manufacturers. So product manufacturing technologies typically are sort of over-indexed on the tech side itself, on the product side itself. And when they do that, they kind of ignore the customer in the entire process. But the customer is a key part of the value chain, right? And so since we're built on Salesforce, which is a huge differentiator already, we are able to connect the information about products and the information about the customer all on a single platform. So you can get like end-to-end collaboration throughout your entire value chain. So it is really cool stuff. And we're at such an exciting period in just this category generally. And to be in the cloud and making moves, it's a fun time to be at Propel.
Yeah. Okay, so what is your role there?
My role is the VP of marketing. So that's my title. And I lead a few functional areas. I lead the content, campaigns, which includes marketing operations, events, and now newly SDRs. So that has been an addition in just the last couple of weeks, and where I've been spending the majority of my time. The rest of my team is fairly senior, which is really helpful. And now we're just working to get the SDR team up to sort of an operational level.
Yeah. So could you tell us a little bit about how you ended up being the VP of marketing?
Sure.
What's your path? What's your journey?
The journey has been, I guess, as linear as you could think a linear journey could be in marketing or careers generally. It's been increased responsibilities with each role. It's been sort of manager, then senior manager, then director, then VP.
Right.
And I know that's kind of unusual, right? I haven't had to do a lot of like circuitous things in my career, but I have worked across different industries. So I started thinking I'd be a journalist first. So writing is really my background. Wanted to be a writer. And then I took a job at a law firm where I began as sort of a junior paralegal of sorts. I really just was looking for a job that required a degree that I just graduated. And when I got there a few weeks into that job, the founding partner of the firm came up to me and said, "I think you should be in marketing." And I thought, what? I have no marketing experience at all. In fact, I didn't think that. I said that to him. And he was like, "Well, you don't have paralegal experience either." And I was like, very good point. So ever since then, I've been in marketing. I spent my time at that law firm learning Salesforce and HubSpot, which opened up the path for me to learn Marketo and do some content marketing, which was just a natural, easy fit for me because of the journalism background. Then I got into cybersecurity. Then I got into retail tech. And now I'm with Propel. And then, of course, just on the side in my free time, I'm also the CMO of a coffee company I own with my sister called Nirvana Soul.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. I love that background because, in fact, we talk about this quite often that so many marketers should like begin with writing because copywriting and content, that's like the beginning, the middle, and the end of marketing. It's like, it's in everything. It's in everything. It's such a crucial skill. And you know what?
I'm always looking for it. I'm always hiring for it. It's harder to teach later in life for sure. But if you have that, I think you can do just about anything there is to do in marketing.
True. And in fact, I don't know how much you had to do with the copy that's on your website, but I thought like just reading it, I went on propelplm.com and, you know, in 20 seconds, I just got it. Even though
I'm happy to hear that.
It's not aimed at me, so I'm not your buyer persona, but I think I got it. And then when you explained me what you do, like I got it.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that was a team effort to get that messaging right. And
it's
so
a huge thing because
of my time these days editing copy instead of writing it firsthand. But yeah, I got a chance to do a little bit of that rev for the website.
Yeah. because you've got a complex product, and to be able to get it across in 20 seconds, it's good job. I've got to say, good job.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you guys are looking at these days that you have challenges with, or that you've tried and that you're having success with?
I would say that we're finally on the demand side. I still think that of my team as a demand team, getting to a place where we're performing. I believe in those stages of coming together where you're like,
Yeah.
forming, norming, storming, performing. And I
Uh-huh.
don't even think that was the right order. And so it's taken us about a year and a half to get to a place where we're now seeing increases on our website traffic, which is great. Our emails are converting. We're, increasing our
Wow.
MQL to SQL conversion rate. And a lot of that has really come out of trial and error. So the big challenges has been around messaging. So it feels good to hear you say that you got it from our website, because that's something, with it being a complex product that serves different industries across med dev and consumer goods and high tech manufacturing. We want to find a message that makes sense for all of those folks, but also is particular enough to serve those individual buyer needs. And so that, I think, continues to
Yeah.
be challenging, and just understanding that ideal buyer the best that we can.
Yeah, now that's what a lot of companies struggle with, actually, is when you serve multiple industries and multiple buyer personas, and you want to get like a one size fits all messaging on your websites. How have you been able to manage that or
I
handle
think
that?
what we've done is we have sort of landed on the thing that all of them share, which is needing to understand their product and their customer together, right?
Yeah.
That's not something that's going to be specific to one industry or the other. Maybe instead of customers, you're going to say patients when it's med device. But for the most part, having those two systems of records together in one place is always going to be valuable. And so as you narrow down into the individual industries, once you sort of get out of that top level
Right.
umbrella messaging, then you can
Right.
get more specific and
Yes.
relevant to what each persona needs.
Yeah, yeah. And I bet there was a ton of strategy work behind everything, because you said you started with copy and messaging. And
Yeah.
so can you give us like an overview of how that strategy work happened? Like before, when you had like almost no idea what to communicate, or you felt that the messaging was off, all the way to the point where you got right now, and where you're seeing results of the trial and error, and of all the experiments. So can you just walk us through that process?
Sure. So I'm very fortunate to work with like a rock star CMO, right? So he's really led this effort since he began. And I want to say he started maybe 3 or 4 months before I did at Propel.
Uh-huh. Right.
And really took over the team, grew the team, brought in new people. And when he started the messaging product, he even worked with some external advisors to come in and help us really think about the best way to structure our messaging, think
Okay.
about what our company does and the problems that we're solving. And that came out in sort of this initial draft of messaging that we were able to put out there, test, run with, and
Mhm.
see if it
Mhm.
works.
Mhm.
From getting a little bit of feedback and just, putting that out into the universe through our different campaigns and the different content that we would create, we were able to say, maybe this part of it works, but this doesn't. We brought in a little bit of like simplified messaging, the stuff that you're seeing on the website now, where we will talk about,
Okay.
we're fast, we're integrated, easy to deploy. All of that stuff came in a later rev. And I think the process has just been being open to experimenting and also
Right.
listening and talking to customers. We did a lot of that. We have a couple advisory boards that we meet with. Our board is pretty heavily involved in our messaging.
Right. Wow.
And yeah, we
Wow.
just want to make sure that we're taking in as many inputs as we can so that we can create a story that makes sense. And now we're just coming around to what we're hoping will be a more finalized version in the next, couple of months here.
Oh,
It just gets better and
awesome.
better.
Yeah, yeah. It's good. It's so nice to hear that like systematic building up of things, and that
Yeah.
it actually leads to success, and that you really can't get around the trial and error and the experimentation. So
No,
it's
I
not
mean,
like,
I can't imagine anyone gets it right right away, like right out the
Yeah.
gates. It's awesome if you do, but it's tough. And you think, and some of us are also just really close. Like a lot of people in our company have been in this world for so long. PLM is not a brand new thing. We're definitely approaching it in a new way.
Mhm.
But this is a 20-year plus industry. And when you're that close to something, it's so hard to see things differently. And
Mhm.
so, my boss didn't come from this world. A lot of people on our marketing team didn't come from this world. And it was really intentional to sort of get an outside perspective.
Yeah.
And so I think we
It's
challenge
always,
ourselves in that way, which is
yeah.
really helpful.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So, what are some of the things that that either keep you up at night or that you're experimenting with right now or that you haven't quite figured out?
Well, I'm really on the SDR thing right
Yeah.
now. And so I'm not someone who's usually kept up all night by pains or things of that nature. I'm like very excitable and optimistic. And, if I'm up all night, it's because I'm thinking about all the opportunities that are out there for us. Like
Yeah.
I know what we're capable of. I know, the people on the team and how great they are. And so having any possibility to bring out the best in them, that's the stuff that keeps me up, because I just want to align talents and responsibility so we can have the greatest results. And so right now, with taking on the SDR team, the day that happened, the very next day, the SDR manager who had been leading them for some time actually left the company. She
Yeah.
had put in her
Yeah.
notice. And so that meant I had to sort of quickly learn how to manage this team so closely, which I hadn't managed SDRs in years, like directly.
Uh-huh.
And so, she left me with a lot of good insights and suggested some books. And I reached out to
Yeah.
our group also and asked, like, what
Right.
things should I be reading and looking at? Just so I can make sure that I was approaching this in a informed way. And I still don't have it 100% right, but I'm reading and learning a ton from the team and just from resources. And so that's really what's been on my mind lately, is how I can get the best
Right.
out of this team, how I can get us aligned on metrics, what activities really matter, what's the best structure for this team. So creating this whole plan has been all consuming over the last couple of weeks.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. And previously, were the SDRs under sales or marketing?
They were under sales, and
They were under
for a
sales.
period, they were also under finance. So that is
Wow.
unheard of, I know, but
Yeah.
but that's how it worked at our company for a
Wow.
period of
Okay.
time.
Okay. So under finance. Yeah. And now, do you have anything like, have you started setting up the systems with metrics and everything that you've mentioned? So are you on track? And
Yeah, so fortunately, there were some dashboards that were set up by our sales ops person who is still here at the company and helping me
Mhm.
make sure that those things are accurate. And then, of course, I have a marketing ops person on my team who is just another rock star. So, this is stuff that he also has been able to jump in and help with. And my background is in sales and marketing ops as well. I mentioned I
And
started by
you're a
running
rock star
sales.
yourself. So you're
We'll
full of
like to
rock
believe
stars.
that. Yeah, I would like to believe that the SDR thing is definitely a challenge. But what I wanted to do on the metrics side is sort of break this down into activities and results. And this is informed from the sales development playbook that I've spent some time reading.
Good. Right.
And then I'm also just the kind of person who wants to make sure coaching doesn't get the back burner. So there's like stuff in there, like make sure you're reading one sales book a month or whatever.
Uh-huh.
But on the activity side, we had to form a baseline. There are some folks on the team that are like killing it on activities every day. Like they're just far and beyond what everyone else is doing. And then some
Yeah.
folks who are newer or, maybe not as comfortable with jumping on the phone or whatever the case may be. So I just like, let's level out, let's pick a number, and let's say everyone, let's hit that for the next few weeks while we're trying to hire this new SDR manager.
Are those individual numbers? So different numbers for everybody or the same number
No,
for
I said standard across the
everything
board, and it has
across
to
the
be
board?
at
Okay.
least this number over the next few weeks.
Right.
And my thinking is that there is that if we can standardize, we can then start to understand what each person needs to hit their actual goals, which for us is qualified meetings, or
Yeah.
SQLs.
So
And
that's
so
your output that you're measuring, the result indicator. Okay.
exactly.
Mhm.
And we are going to pretty soon here be transitioning to instead being measured on booked meetings with our AEs. And so that's a change, but the reasoning behind that is that it gives us a chance, one, to continue testing messaging. This team has come under marketing, and so they're the front lines who talk to folks. So we should really be taking advantage of the conversations they're having.
Yeah. It's one of the
And
best ways to test in B2B. Sorry. So it's like,
yeah,
in like consumer markets, you can just like throw out some Google AdWords ad variations or ad variations on whatever platform on Facebook. But here that doesn't always work depending on the market you're in. But
no,
you
it
do
doesn't.
have reps, like you do have SDRs, and they can give you like even more qualitative feedback on your messaging.
Yeah,
If
and
you
they're doing that as early as this morning in our SDR huddle. They're telling us things that we didn't think about or
Mhm.
anticipate. So, they're the ones who are making the calls. They're the ones who get to pitch our different stories and messages to the different personas. They're sending out cadences that they can work through with marketing. So this is all standard messaging that we can
Mhm.
provide for them, that we will provide for them. And then we can start looking at what are those email response rates? What are the phone calls? We use Gong. What are the phone calls and the things that we're saying that are pushing folks to want to continue the conversation, who, getting people to get on meetings with our account executive team. That's the kind of stuff that we really want to look at and get to a sense of finality with the actual message that works for these different personas in these different industries. And then who knows, maybe at some point we'll be able to transition our way back to doing qualified meetings. But for such a
Yeah.
complex product, I just don't think we're there yet with
Yeah.
the SDRs.
Yeah. Okay. And how did you guys manage this change culturally? Like you had the previous SDR manager, and previously you told me that they weren't measuring as many things, and now you started measuring stuff, and you maybe have like higher expectations in terms of outputs. Was there any turbulence that you had to smooth out and
I
manage
have to be
culturally,
honest,
first of all?
this team has been so flexible. They're awesome. Like, they've dealt with so much change. They've reported to 4 different teams, I think, in the last year. And they are just like go with the flow. But the cultural change that I think I was looking for was to see a little more fire in them. I think that you lose motivation when there's so much change. And, I think we were starting to think, they're a quieter team. Maybe, they're not as interested in being sales. Maybe, the motivation is not there. And so by starting to look at things a little bit more closely, provide more accountability, which we do now every single Friday, we have a new meeting that we review on alternating weeks, the MQLs that have come in, and then the other week, our focus accounts, because we're also doing a little ABM very early on in that, but that's what we're doing. And the SDR will just go through one by one who they're talking to, what the context of that account is, what that account sells, how they're moving it forward, what their next step is. They didn't really have to do that much before. And the point isn't to, be a hawk and just, on their case. The point is to get them really understanding what it means to be a salesperson and to gather information and to keep your accounts as clean as possible. That data hygiene is gold. And I'm starting to see that they have more fire in them than maybe I originally anticipated. And I love that. I love being
Yeah.
wrong.
SDRs need to be on fire.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Definitely.
I'm seeing that hunger now.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I bet that they appreciate this structure basically,
I
because
hope
I
so.
think that yeah, because some people have problems with rigidity and structure, but actually what it does is it sets you on the track, and it gets rid of a bunch of distractions, and it gives you clear direction so you can actually focus on stuff. And because you're focusing on stuff, you're getting results, and because you're getting results, you're getting fired up.
Exactly
With
right. And
clarity, that helps. And yeah, so that's what like a good structure does. So good job on that.
oh,
Awesome.
well, thank you. I'm just hopeful when the SDR manager, the new one, comes in, they can just join what we're already creating rather than have to create
Yeah,
something from scratch. So yeah,
yeah,
kind of cool.
yeah. And what I'm hearing that works really well with I work with Infinidin, who basically do outsourced SDR works for account-based teams. And what they do is like they systematically ignite this fire in the SDR. So like that's a huge part of their culture, their DNA, that even now when there's no office and everybody's working from home, they would have meetings where the managing director would put some like music in, and they would, they just get the thing going.
I
And
love that because you're right. The remote thing is such a challenge, especially for SDRs who, sitting in that bullpen is how you learn through osmosis, and that's just gone.
Yeah.
So I guess the Friday meetings are almost doing that virtually, with the exception of being able to listen to everyone's calls happening at the same time. But it's so important.
Yeah, yeah, which is necessary on the one hand, but on the other hand, what you want to do is just ignite the fire on purpose.
Yeah,
Celebrate
totally.
small wins, celebrate people, flip them
100%. Yes.
out and say, yeah, Jane did an awesome job with this account last week. So yeah, Jane. And then, on Teams, everybody gives the thumbs ups and the hearts, and it's flying all over the place. And it's not the same as being in the room and
Right.
feeling it, but it's close. It's close. And
Yeah,
it's,
the energy is there. We've definitely had moments where someone shared, their updates, and afterwards we were all just blown away by the progress they made, and you could feel the energy in the room that we were like, yeah, let's just like applaud because that was pretty good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So have you been able to notice things that correlate to good results? So what is it that the top performers are doing that others aren't, or aren't as much?
I think it's very early on for me to see that just
Yeah.
yet, but my guess sort of at that would be just the number of activities. So, some people are not as active as others. And I
Huh.
think that probably plays a role in it. But then also, we got to look at ourselves and say, how are we enabling those who aren't as active to feel more comfortable to do outreach?
Mhm.
Our SDRs are young. A lot of them are just fresh out of college, first jobs, and they need guidance in order to have that level of activity. At least most of them do. Some folks are just naturally like, I just want to get on the phones and just, fail fast. And that's great too,
Yeah,
but that's not everybody.
yeah,
And so we are looking at what our enablement would look like, putting together playbooks. We've had an AE already come and chat in and sort of chat with us about inbound best practices. Our VP of marketing talked to the team last week about the ICP and buyer personas and just understanding that more
yeah.
deeply. So, it's our responsibility too on the marketing side and on the company side, really, to ensure that
Mhm.
those folks who are making calls and reaching out to prospects have everything they need to feel confident to do that, right? Like one of our AEs will call that swagger. You have to have a little swagger, but that's not going to come out of nowhere. Like you
Yeah,
have some swagger with some resources.
yeah, yeah. Good point. Yeah. And how are you guys using your SDR team to supplement your ABM efforts? Is there a little link there?
Yeah, I
And
think we're going
are
we're
they part of it?
intertwined in the sense that now with them being on marketing, it's a little bit easier. And so some plays where we're sort of orchestrated together. So marketing will do something which will trigger something for the SDR to do. Those are the kinds of things that we want to look at. We'll do some, if your account visits this page, then the SDR
Yeah,
takes this action.
yeah,
And then we've been doing market research sort of at the marketing side, at the higher level on the marketing side, but we'll want the SDRs to do more of that account research and really making sure the data is clean on every single account that we're targeting.
yeah,
We're tiered, so we're doing a one to few with 200 accounts per AE per territory. And at the top of that, there's the top 30 focus accounts. And so they're sort of
uh,
splitting it out and being able to go through and do some of that
yeah,
research. So that's probably where we are now.
yeah,
We're not even yet to the point that we're running campaigns that should be starting in April. And so that's going to be probably the big test for us, because even as of last week, we were like, what's the best way to run campaigns across our two teams? And the AEs also want a piece of that, right? Like the AEs are like, I want to have a webinar to my territory. We're like, how do we build that so that it's easily scalable? So we're still trying to figure that out.
yeah. Just one question. Are you having your SDRs do the market research and cleaning the data and everything? Or do you have some?
Marketing has done the market research. So we
Okay.
have provided that for our two bigger audiences, so med dev and manufacturing. And then the SDRs would step in to do more account level research.
Oh, account level. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because what I saw working at Infinident is that they have this basically hypothesis or observation that SDRs are basically sales wired people. So, they're supposed to be like going out there and getting stuff. And what account level research needs is like head down work and
Mhm.
diving deep into stuff. So it's like really different skill sets and different personalities actually.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So they would have like the researcher type of people.
I've heard
who-
about this role. It's actually in the book I was reading. It's like having a
Oh, okay.
separate researcher role.
Right. Yeah, they call it business intelligence,
Mhm.
which is just a fancy way of saying research, basically. But
Yep.
but yeah, so that's I think that's where like a lot of good things can come out of that. If you have research people doing research and salespeople doing sales, and if you separate the two, like good things
Oh,
can
yeah.
come out of that.
It's something to consider, getting more headcount for that meantime. I
Yeah, I
think
mean, if
we're
yeah,
yeah, if we
depends on
had
the budget
the
and
headcount,
headcount
I
and
could
everything,
definitely
but
see that
yeah.
being valuable. For now, I think our SDRs are in our top, so we're like 3 tiered of SDRs, and so our SDR 3 is doing outbound only. And so they'll be completely focused on those focused accounts, which will be super cool. But you're right, when it comes to the research part of that, if someone shows real engagement, it might be tough to look up and or look down and do that work.
Yeah, yeah. So Bianca, do you have any questions you wanted to ask me?
I'm always down to steal any gems you have, especially because you have this slant about SDRs being in marketing and doing ABM. So
Yeah.
I guess just what advice do you have for us as we embark on this?
Yeah, it's well, one thing that's been working for a couple of companies is to get SDRs involved as early in the process as possible, meaning that you don't necessarily wait around for leads to nurture before you actually have a human person talk to them. But for especially those tier one accounts, those like top priority accounts, when you get some intent data, meaning that like website research, you guys have some intent information, right, from Bombera, or do you source any
We're
intent?
getting there. We're getting there.
Okay. Well, when you do, it's it's been pretty good and successful where you give the intent data to SDRs and then they reach out right away. And in the meantime, digital marketing has the campaigns coming, so you have the account targeted advertising, but
Yep.
that sort of happens simultaneously with the human outreach, and that's
Yes.
what's
That's
been pretty
awesome to
powerful.
hear because that's exactly what it is. Right now, we're doing air cover on the marketing side, and the SDRs are doing outreach. But that's not any different than kind of what we were doing before. So
Oh,
that's where
okay.
Adrian always gets a little like funny because we were like, isn't that just sales and marketing? And I'm like, kind of, but we have chosen some accounts.
Yeah. I think where the rubber meets the road with ABM is that if you sort of lose the lead focus and then like shift the mindset and everything to accounts, because
Totally.
still today
Yeah.
so many companies, even those who are doing account-based sales and account-based marketing, they'll be obsessed with leads, and so marketing will just like fully focus on leads. Whereas if
Hmm.
you just like you have done, you said you're going to start measuring SDR output based on meetings booked with the account rather than, what was it, sales qualified leads, or what was the
Yeah.
previous,
SQLs before. Yep.
or SQLs. Yeah. So that's more of an account centric shift, I think, and an account centric perspective. Yeah, and everything else in ABM is basically just marketing done
Right.
right. But I think it's that shift which is fundamental, and the focus on revenue and revenue related outcomes.
Totally, totally. Yeah. I mean, we're still hybrid, so inbound is still very much focused on leads.
Mhm.
And then outbound is our account focus. And so all of this comes together in a word I heard recently, all bound is what we're saying around here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I think that you're right. That shift to account only, we're probably a little bit away from that. We're still working leads, we're still pulling them in and nurturing them and doing all of that. And so we're doing both at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's not like you have to, it's not like a religion or something that you have to choose one over the other. All bound is the right approach, I think. I mean, you have tool sets or boxes of tools, and why not just use them in a combination that works for you? And you
Mhm.
can just experiment, and you don't
Absolutely.
have to get rid of inbound just because ABM is trendy.
We
You can
would
just
not do that. No, we
use
were
what works.
inbound has definitely been working, so we would we would not do that. But we do need to ramp up outbound. We want some
Mhm.
more balance in our pipeline is being generated from, and ultimately where the revenue is coming from. So yeah, the ABM is our way of sort of getting outbound to that level.